up from the Great Northwest. Number 7 Stanford travels to Seattle, where number 6 Washington looks to defend its home floor in a top 10 national showdown. The Cardinal, the Huskies, next on the Pac-12 Networks. It's one of those matches that just seem to appear like a mirage in the fog. The fans consider it a treat. The players think of it as a challenge. Today, inside Alaska Airlines Arena, the Pac-12 presents two of the best teams in college volleyball. It's number 6 Washington and the 7th-ranked Cardinal of Stanford. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Watson with Tammy Blackburn. Our job in the Open is to hype things up, make it think it's more important than it is. We don't have to do that with this match. Two of the best programs in the history of the sport. 2 Hall of Fame coaches and 2 teams with top 10 rankings. This one sells itself.
It sure does. And what this match is going to do for women's volleyball is going to be spectacular. The talent you are going to see on the court today is going to make the fan base extremely exciting. But this is why we play the match. Everything's up for grabs. I just got handed a note a few seconds ago that USC had been unbeaten in the Pac-12, and they got knocked off today by Arizona.
Oh, number 1 team in the nation and first place now in the Pac-12 is up for grabs. Let's talk about Stanford, gold standard in this sport. 32 straight NCAA tournaments, they're going again. If you need an all-star, put the roster on the wall, throw a dart, maybe you hit Jordan Burgess.
It's not often that a sophomore comes into a Stanford Cardinal women's volleyball program and has the numbers and the hype that Jordan Burgess does, but it's a balanced Stanford Cardinal team that makes her a better pin hitter. Now for Washington, Krista Van Sant, like Burgess, is a great outside hitter. Jim McLaughlin wanted her to be a better passer this year, and she has become a well-rounded player, and that's been huge for the Huskies.
The other night, Van Sant had a double-double and went over 1,000 kills in her career. It seems like every time these two get together right here in the Emerald City, it ends up going 5. We're expecting that again. This year, they've combined for 22 sweeps. Not going to see that. We're going to be here a while. It's a big match. It's a big crowd. It's number 6 against number 7. It's Washington and Stanford, and it's coming up next on the Pac-12 Networks. Great matchup today inside Alaska Airlines Arena in Seattle on the Pac-12 Networks, and a special welcome to those folks watching the men's soccer game. Number 1 California beats Stanford 1-0. John Dunning is in his 13th season as the head coach at Stanford. He has 4 national championships, and back in 2011 they did the right thing and put him in the Hall of Fame. Maddie Bugg is their setter and the leader for the Stanford Cardinal, come in number 7 in the country. They are 13-3, 6-1 in conference. At the other end, it's Jimmy McLaughlin, who's also been on Montlake for 13 years. He won the national championship in 2005. He has taken the Gym Dogs to the NCAA tournament 10 consecutive years. Washington is 14-1. They too are 6-1 in conference. They'll run 2 setters. Katie Beals will start, but we'll also see Jenny Nagaris. Jim Watson, Tammy Blackburn, inside Alaska Airlines Arena. I'll tell you what, every year when I get a Stanford-Washington match, it doesn't matter if it's on the farm or if it's on Lake Washington, I know it's a good one. I know it's going to be a big match and a big crowd, and we're going to be here a long time.
That's because of those 2 coaches that we just saw and the players that they're recruiting. You've got some All-Americans on the floor. And like I said, what this match is going to do for women's volleyball is going to be exciting.
If you missed us at the top, number 1 USC, that's number 1 in the conference, number 1 in the nation, beaten today in straight sets by Dave Rubio and the Arizona Wildcats. That is a huge upset, especially doing it by running the table. And so first place is up for grabs in the Pac-12. Stanford and the traveling Cardinal, and Washington and the home whites, and the Cardinal waste no time. Liana Seibeldon, the first kill. He goes quickly to the bench. Jim McLaughlin will work his substitutions. Orlandini now serving for Washington. Janet Orlandini, keep an eye on Washington. Best serving team in the conference. Off the hands of Strickland, unable to keep it in play.
Now Washington is going to be an aggressive serving team. This is a team that emphasizes aggression. Good things happen when you serve aggressively, and Burgess had to go back and pass.
Whitney Howard for Stanford. Coming in was Libero, Orlandini. Block at the net and controlled by Carly Wolpack. Carly is the big name for Stanford on that front row, but they have many. Tipped across by Krista Van Zandt. She's the star for Washington. Blocked by Van Zandt and covered by covered by Stanford, and they end up winning the point. This isn't the only big match today. We told you that USC has already been beaten by Arizona. Look at the bottom of the screen. Number 1 USC is no more. Oregon is also a winner. UCLA beats Arizona State and Colorado over the Beavs. All 4 matches in straight sets today. Van Zandt off the net. Patty Bug with a quick bump set to Wopat in the middle. Saw good defense by Stanford. Washington just matched it. That's long. No touch. Point for the Huskies.
Like what I'm saying with the Huskies. First of all, on Stanford's first serve right out of the gates in set number 1, they look to set the middle. Sybelden gets the point. She goes out on a rotation. Orlandini coming back in, but this is a Washington team, Jim, in the spring. They wanted to focus on getting their middles more involved, and they have.
Jenny Nogueras for Washington. 2-2, first set. Cross court. Slow down for net. Strickland dug in the back row. Too hot. 3-2 Washington. Back and forth we go.
Both coaches respecting each other and the type of play. Now, earlier this week, one coach says, oh, Washington's really good, and the other one says, well, Stanford's really good. We've got to have good pin hitters, and we saw that from Van Zandt.
Both teams are excellent offensively, but don't sell the defense is short. In fact, Stanford is the best blocking team in the Pac-12, and that means one of the best in the country. Back row, Jordan Burgess finds some space. Stanford pulls level at 3. Jordan Burgess, Gatorade National Player of the Year a couple of seasons ago. She came out of Berkeley Prep, that's down in Fort Myers, Florida. There's Carly Wopat, Santa Barbara kid, went to Dos Pueblos, right by UCSB, and just misses the back line. Both teams are coming off sweeps. Stanford beat Washington State a couple of nights ago. Washington played earlier in the week, beat California right here in 3. Inky Ajanaku running an X off the back, her first kill of the match.
She's very good, and her 3-step approach, she's got long arms, she's got long legs, very physically talented player. She likes to cut a sharp angle like she did right there. A lot of power. Sky's the limit for that player.
Ajanaku will get her kills, but she makes her bones at the net defensively. Big in blocks. Patty Bug, a little confusion there. She stepped out of the way. Strickland, and that's covered in the back row. Brittany Howard. Dini came in. Barrow. That is out. No touch. Point for Stanford.
And a good look by Washington on the outside. That's the opposite position. That was number 6, Nelson, who took a good arm swing, a little bit too long.
Both teams hit over 300 on the year. It would be difficult against either one of these defenses to reach that mark. And that's out. Washington misses twice in a row. Biggest lead of the match for either team. Rachel Williams at the service line. Sophomore from Los Gatos, Central California. That's out. That's 3 in a row that Washington has missed. Washington hits 300 on the season as a team. Right now, Washington is hitting 100. Little smile on the face of John Dunning. That's just the start he was looking for. It's going to be a long day. So far, Dunning and the Cardinal a little bit better than McLaughlin and the Dogs. Back inside Alaska Airlines Arena on campus at UW on the Pac-12 networks. Jim Watson, Tammy Blackburn, Stanford leading 7-4 early on. What are our keys today, Tammy?
Washington is going to be an aggressive serving team. Stanford, therefore, has to pass out of that. Stanford is well aware that they have to apply pressure. Why? Because Washington will not make mistakes. They will not hurt themselves. And lastly, for Washington, they must stay composed, which they are likely to do, but something they continue to work on match after match.
Washington is number 6 in the country. Stanford is number 7. The number 1 team both in the conference and the country, USC, has been beaten today in 3 straight by Arizona. So first place is up for grabs. When we went to break, Washington had missed 3 shots in a row. Make it 4. Try to go line and just out. Line's been right on it. It was the correct call. So 4 hitting errors for Washington, the difference so far in the first set. They run the pipe for the first time today to Melanie Wade. Deke to Wade this time. Back set instead. to Kaylee Nelson. Well, Stanford's got it going on right now. They have the rhythm offensively, and Washington is a little inept. Their hitting percentages now at 154. Stanford is hitting .333, and the Husky fans want to change it right here. Expecting a crowd better than 5,000. Maddie Bug down to one knee, and then Inky Ajanaku with one hand. Violation into the net on Stanford. The point goes to Washington either way.
That was key. Orlandini doing some yeoman's work in the back as a libero, having to take the second ball, and does a nice job of being able to set up Nelson, a player that many of her kills came from the right side this year. No different in this match this year.
Breaks a 5-0 run. Serving is Melanie Wade, who grew up in Palo Alto. Inky Ajanaku on slap set. Nice job by Ajanaku to readjust and tip with the fingertips. And normally that play is a quick set, and she just brings the hammer down, can go cross-quarter line. The set was out in front of her. She readjusted. Jordan Burgess. Little slow to start the sophomore year, but has picked up every match. Sometimes there's that sophomore slump. She didn't experience it. 11-5. Crowd a bit stunned. See folks in the background, arms folded. They're not used to seeing this. Washington is not only a very good team, they're a very good home team. They're 6-0 in the home boards. Stuffed by Ajanaku. It's 12-5.
Jim, you mentioned it earlier, Stanford, the best blocking team in the nation. You've got Ajanaku, 1.4 blocks per set, and how about Carly Wopat, the same number, 1.4 as well. It's good enough to have number one at 1.4, but how about having back-to-back at 1.4 per set? It's huge, and she's a big presence at the net.
Inky Ajanaku just had that block, her first of the match, had 8 blocks the other night in Pullman against Washington State to go along with 10 kills. Ajanaku is one of the keys, but they have 5 All-Stars on this team. 5 former Gatorade Players of the Year in their states. Stanford is loaded, again, number 7 in the country. Talking about the rankings all day today because number 1 USC has been beaten, so that opens the door for teams like Texas, teams like Florida, and of course Washington and Stanford are right down here at 6 and 7. But we kind of expect this now because the parity in college women's volleyball is much better than it used to be.
Well, it sure is. And Washington, Stanford battling here today, and these teams going to see USC. USC knocked off Stanford in 3 down at the Los Angeles area at the Galen Center. But again, we're just right about at the halfway point in this season, Jim, and anything can happen. That's why Rich Feller, the head coach of Cal, says we play this game because who would have thought that USC would go on the road and lose to Arizona in 3?
And who would have thought Washington would lose at Colorado?
Absolutely. And let's not forget to mention a good UCLA team that hung in there and just beat a top-ranked Arizona State team in 3, both of those on the road. So these things are huge, and this is why the Pac-12 is so great in women's volleyball.
And Tammy, if you look at the national rankings as we just did, and you notice that loss column, back in the day, this part of the year, there'd be 4 or 5 teams that were undefeated. Now, the top teams in the country have already lost twice. I think people are scheduling better early in the year. And like I said, there's more parity, there's more depth at the Division I level. Stanford has broken a 4-4 tie with a 7-1 run here, leading 12-5. Guerra. Number 2 setters here for Washington. Cassie Strickland. Now, Strickland is known for her back row play, known for her strong service game, but so far she's had 3 looks just like this. That's a standing jump. Well, goes tween blockers.
Last year she thrilled the dog pack. She's 5'8", a great outside hitter. She's got big hits for 5'8". She's got some big time serves. One of those exciting players to watch.
Back set. Ajanaku from Maddie Bug. Inky's got a hot hand. She has a couple of kills already and a big stuff block.
And she goes out, but guess who comes in? Carly Wopat. Doesn't get any easier.
An all-conference kid for an All-American. That works. Knuckleball serve. Beals is the new setter for Washington, number 7. Cross court. See if they go back to Howard. They do. Brittany Howard outside off the block. Kept alive, but it ends up in the crowd.
I got to tell you, Brittany Howard and Jordan Burgess, working very well together. Brittany Howard chased that ball in the pursuit to keep it in play. Burgess gave her enough time by a high set. The fact that she gets that ball on the ground on her knees, gets back into transition and takes the attack is huge.
Kyle Gilbert serving the second in the Pac-12 in digs and comes up with an ace. Kyle Gilbert's major, management science and engineering. Bilingual mathematics, but she wants to be a sportscaster. Why waste all that education? Do better than that. Nothing to this gig. Back row attack. Zant. Gilbert stepping in for the bump set. Armendini. This time we called Kaylin Munoz's name. Munoz couldn't finish the point. Longest rally. Slide again by Stanford. Doug carries out. Stanford is making a statement here in the first game. Lead has reached double digits, and Washington's got to dig in right here, or this set is over. They played a 25, win by 2. Gilbert's got a nice run going. Katie Beal outside to Munoz. She gets stuffed, it falls at her feet. It's 17-6, and it is quiet on Montlake.
Yeah, we told you it wasn't going to be easy at the net when Ajanaku subs out and Carly Wopat takes that middle blocking position. She's second in the conference and 13th nationally. 1.4 blocks is huge. Her team gets a lot of confidence from her.
Jim McLaughlin just put Gabby Parker in. She wears twin ones on those home whites. See how quickly they entertain going to her. Instead, they run the pipe to Cy Belden. Wopat on the slide. Carly Wopat, we haven't had a chance to talk to her, but she actually leads Stanford with better than 3 kills in a set. And for Carly Wopat, that should have put her at 1,000 kills in her career. She came in with 999. Munoz from off the net. Stanford block looking pretty strong right now. Brittany Howard has gotten a piece of 2 shots in a row. See where Beals goes here. Back set between hands, and there's Gabby Parker. Well, look, if Jim McLaughlin's going to go deep in the bench early in a match, then that player is going to get a touch, and that's what he did with Gabby Parker.
Man, this is a great look. I mean, this is a player that's willing to kind of play her role on this team. She can make the switch from the outside to a middle this year. If necessary, she sees her opportunity on that right side right now and terminates.
Does Jim have enough pens on his shirt? I think he had 4 pens on his shirt and 1 in his hand. First block of the match for Washington.
There's the pins, the green and the black and the red. He is a man that thinks things through. He's a numbers guy, much like Mick Haley, the head coach at USC, breaks everything down, and perhaps, Jim, he needs a few pens to keep all the numbers separated.
He is super organized, and everything means something. Wopat 2 in a row. Carly Wopat is the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week. Wopat had 7 kills the other night against Washington State, but that was in straight sets, so she didn't have time to get to double digits. Service error by Bug. Maddie Bug runs this offense, 2nd in the Pac-12, 5th in the nation at 12 assists per set. Jenna Orlandini. Bug, flat-footed set. Orlandini almost got eaten up by that one, but stayed with it. Another block by Wopat. Might have been a solo.
One of the most fit players in this conference and probably in the nation. You see the penetration. Her eye sequence is so good. Her movement at the net, that's what makes her a well-rounded blocker. It doesn't hurt the fact that she's one of the best hitters. And that slide that Carly Wopat executes, very tough to stop.
You'd expect Wopat to be a pretty good athlete. Her dad was on the U.S. decathlon team, and her mom was a gymnast at Santa Barbara, also ran track and field, so good lineage there for Carly Wopat. Tip down, but not much on it. Stanford able to keep it off the floor. Down the line, Van Zandt. They haven't been able to get Krista Van Zandt involved in this offense. 16's on the far side. They go right back to her. Good set away from the block. Got to get Van Zandt going.
Jim, you're right. You need to give her some looks, but it's got to come from passing first. Established as one of the top outside hitters in this competitive Pac-12 conference. Perhaps the most improved from her freshman to sophomore year, something that Jim McLaughlin really buys into, that players really improve the most in between those years.
Second kill in the match for Van Zandt. And how about a block for Van Zandt?
Sometimes you got to just pick your team up on your shoulders and say, let's go, and that's what Van Zandt has done. In these last two plays, a big kill, and then she and Wade are getting it done at the net.
Well, Krista Van Zandt always plays well against Stanford. Double-double in both of the matches last year. But of course, Stanford won both of those matches last year, and that's what really counts. Krista Van Zandt, a junior from Redlands, California, almost 4 kills per set. She's starting to get going now. She picks up 2 kills and a block. Well, Saturday we have a Pac-12 football doubleheader at 1 o'clock. It's the Utes back on the networks and primed for a battle with USC. And then at 5 o'clock, Kadeem Carey and the Arizona Wildcats roaring into Boulder to face Michael Adkins and the Buffs of CU. Live coverage starts 12 o'clock, pregame show. The Pac-12 networks. Carey, by the way, 40 rushes. That's a school record on Saturday. 236 yards against Utah. It's the 3rd most in school history. Michael Adkins, 4 touchdowns for the Buffs against Charleston Southern. That 4 touchdowns is a school freshman record, so both of those guys hot right now.
Quite a celebration in Arizona's locker room yesterday after they beat Utah, a team that came in pretty hot after knocking off Stanford the week before.
Pac-12 women's volleyball has gotten very interesting in the last 3 hours with USC's loss. USC was first in the nation, first in the conference. Either one of these teams wins today, they will pull even at the top of the table.
Jim, you were just complimenting Van Zandt. Let me say, from her freshman to her sophomore year, freshman year all Pac-12 honorable mention. Sophomore year, big step up. Second team All-American last year. Huge stride.
And the other night, 14 kills against California to go over 1,000 in her career. So Van Zandt for Washington and Carly Wopat for Stanford this week, joining the 1K club. Orlandini chases it down, running right at her head coach and ending up on her face. Back set. That's Rachel Williams, 21-11. Well, Washington is scrambling. They are groveling to keep rallies going, but Stanford is terminating all the big points, thus a 10-point lead. Service error by Wopat.
Gabby Parker returns for Washington. Krista Van Zandt to serve.
Wopat at one end, Van Zandt at the other at the service line. It's a little give and go there with Jordan Burgess. Back to Burgess down the line. Had some heat. It is 22-12.
Let's just take a look at the hitting percentages right now. 13 kills, only 3 errors for Stanford, hitting over 300. And for Washington, 6 kills, 8 errors. They are hitting a negative 0.57. Big difference.
That's unbelievable. Washington hits 300 on the year. Coming in to get to it was Kyle Gilbert. And that's the way this entire first set has gone. Washington thinks they have the advantage. They think they've won the point, and then the libero comes in with a pancake.
Yeah, Gilbert really kind of gives this Stanford offense some real tempo with her digs. Also a great second ball player.
Nagara middle to Wade. Dug again. Rachel Williams. Gabby Parker's come back in. Well, Parker has paid off twice. I think Parker's only been on the court for 3 serves, and she has 2 kills. It remains 23-13. And remember, we only go to 25. Melanie Wade now for the Huskies. Officials wiping up a little sweat on the floor. Parker, easily dug. Joniku, 24-13. Well, you can hear how quiet it is.
It is quiet, yes. The dog pack came in. First of all, great job by the dog pack coming in and groves.
Well, they always
a great
fill it
fan
up.
base.
I mean, the other night they had almost 6,000 people in here. We're expecting the same kind of numbers today, but you can see those folks in the background wearing purple, but with their chins on their hands.
Yeah, they had a blackout the other night, and 4,600 people, 2,000 of them were students. They love to come out and watch some women's volleyball.
Well, anytime you play a sport on campus, right in the middle of campus, and here at the University of Washington, it's kind of split. Most of the athletic fields are on the lower part of campus, but it's right on the edge of the lake. The benefit, of course, people can walk to the matches. Brittany Howard ends the first set quietly. It's 25-14 final. Washington gets routed in the opener. I told you that it would go 5. Washington better wake up or it's going to be a quick night. Smiles on the face of the Stanford players, and why not? They hit 351 in the first set. Washington hit less than 0. Stanford dominates. Number 7 wins the first set, 25-14. Stanford head coach John Dunning down on one knee in front of the number 7 team in the country. Stanford beats Washington, the 6th-ranked Huskies, 25-14 in the first set. By the way, Stanford, when it wins the first set, is 12-0. Look at the attack percentage. Stanford at 350, even better than their mark on the year. But what happened to Washington in the first set, Tammy?
Well, their attacking percentage, those hitting errors really hurt them, and they're hitting less than 0, as you mentioned. But let's take a look at the other side. Carly Wopat, 3 kills, no errors. Inky Ajanaku, 4 kills on 0 hitting errors, and that's how you get things done. When you eliminate your hitting percentage or your hitting errors, you hit a much higher percentage, and that is helpful, and that has quieted the dog pack down here in Alaska Airlines Arena.
Great balance for Stanford on the attack. 5 kills for Jordan Burgess, 4 for Inky Ajanaku, and then 3 each for Carly Wopat and Brittany Howard. They have 3 players hitting 500 or better so far. And for Washington, well, they had those 8 hitting errors, so that keeps their hitting percentage below 0. And they're Gabby Parker had 2 kills, and Krista Van Zandt only had 2 kills. I don't think I need to say any more about that.
Those are the 2 players that I was just going to point out. For Van Zandt, she's hitting positive, but they just need to get her more looks. And for Gabby Parker, continue to feed her when you can. 2 kills with no errors.
Yeah, Parker hit 500.
Yes.
But remember, she's not a starter. She comes in just during certain rotations. We switch sides, and for Washington, early in the match, but you almost have to say a must-win set. You cannot fall down 2 to Stanford and expect to win 3 in a row. It's possible, but it's a pretty tall order. Unfortunately for Washington, they start out second frame with a service error. And just like the first set, Stanford takes the early lead. Washington just doesn't look focused.
Yeah. Their confidence has been rattled, certainly by the way that Stanford came out and set the tempo. And that's a rare hitting error by Kaylee Nelson.
One-handed set by Noguera, but the passing just wasn't there. Gilbert came in. She thought she got to it, but the down official says no, touch the floor. Washington needed a break. They need a couple more. Does it touch the floor? I don't know.
You might want to give her the pancake on that. That looked pretty good.
Looked like she was there in plenty of time. Not a big argument, though, from the Washington bench. Excuse me, from the Stanford bench. Wade with an ace, 2-2. The series has been dominated over the years by Stanford 49-11, but it's changed around a little bit since McLaughlin came to Montlake 13 years ago. These 2 teams keep trading victories. Last year, Stanford won both here in Seattle in 5 sets. That's long, but there was a touch at the net. The point goes to Stanford. John Dunning, Hall of Famer in 2011. By the way, a 4-time Coach of the Year in the conference and a 2-time National Coach of the Year. But I'll tell you what he's most proud of, his 2 grandkids, right? Mackenzie and Cole.
He's coached a lot of good players in his time. 31 All-Americans.
He's top 5 all-time in winning percentage. He's won 83% of the matches in which he's coached. 83%. And remember what conference that he works in. There's not a lot of easy days in the Pac-12. Blocked by Washington, a free ball here. This is a chance for that. Beals sets inside, but it was not a good set. Cy Belden couldn't do much with it. Off the block and out, Burgess tools it, and it's 4-3 Stanford. Jim McLaughlin at the other end. We mentioned the national championship back in 2005, 10 consecutive NCAAs. And this year, the NCAA Final Four is in Seattle. Not here at UW, but just down the road at Key Arena. And McLaughlin is aiming to be there. But he circled out with one of his colored pens. That's it.
Let's not forget what Jim McLaughlin has done. He won a national championship as a head coach at USC of the men's team. Of course, in 2005 at Washington, women's volleyball national championship. But let's not forget either that as a setter, junior college championship in 1981 with the Santa Monica Junior College. How about that?
Santa Monica CC. He's a Malibu kid. Grew up surfing on the beach with Emilio Estevez, Sean Penn. Went to Samo High, Santa Monica High School. Kept alive. Crowd starting to get into it. Joniku! And Joniku turned that wrist out. I thought she had mishit it, but she was just placing it right in a seam. Watch her turn it. Pretty play. Rachel Williams. Middle has not been there for Washington. Passing in the setting, a little out of sync right now. Double block, but it goes out. And Burgess has another kill for Stanford. You expect big kills from Wopat, maybe a Joniku, Howard, but Jordan Burgess has 7 kills to lead Stanford so far. Burgess averages 2.5 sets. She's ahead of pace. Coming back is Krista Van Zandt.
That's what you want to do. You want to make good decision as a setter. When you've got the opportunity to set her, go ahead and give her the look. She's got a nice arm swing, one of the best.
Van Zandt, freshman of the year in the conference in 2011. Was an All-American in 2012. Stop block on the 50-50 ball. Wade couldn't finish it. Van Zandt, right at Williams. That's a lift. You wouldn't imagine that Brittany Howard is used to setting in the back row overhand. Kind of handcuffed her a bit. 6-6. Critical time for Washington as they send Jenna Orlandini to the service line. Going on 2. Maddie Bug. Maddie Bug will dump it anytime she does not feel that block. You've got to cover the setter or she's going to finish it. Inside Alaska Airlines Arena in Seattle on the Pac-12 networks. It's number 7 Stanford and number 6 Washington. Stanford won the first set 25-14. Jim Watson, Tammy Blackburn with you. Washington has not been themselves, but we're starting to recognize them now in the face of Krista Van Zandt.
Yeah, this is what they're doing. They're battling, and they're using their go-to player on the outside to split the block. How about that attack by Krista Van Zandt?
The other night against Cal, Van Zandt had a double-double, 14 kills and 14 digs, and she hit 450 on that night.
Hitting 300 right now, 4 kills, only 1 error.
To the back line, and Gilbert danced out of the way and let it fall. Now, Washington's problem is they can get close, but they can't get in front, so they're not controlling this match. They're playing at Stanford's pace. Look at Gilbert just taking her time. Throw and then go get it. Sam. Well, Stanford has to know it's coming. Whether it's Johnny, Ronnie, Donnie, or Krista Van Zandt. The tune's not going to change. It's a Leonard Skinnard reference.
Yes.
For those of you youngins.
Of course. Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. Sorry.
Unfortunately, I'm old enough to know.
And then coming right back with a service error takes the air out of the room. There's Maddie Bug. It's impossible to just say one of her names. Got to say them together. It's melodic. Off the block and down. Well played by Cassie Strickland. I'm surprised to see Strickland getting this much of the offense.
Well, I'm not. I mean, I think she has a lot of power. I think sometimes when you're down and you're just looking for tempo, you're looking for excitement. And this is a Jim McLaughlin coach that has a lot of confidence in Cassie Strickland. I know she's 5'8" and she gives up height, but she doesn't give up power.
Yeah, big and digs. Right at the service line. And the slide to Wopat. And Wopat is one of those players, if you get her one-on-one on that X, the slide where she runs off the back of the setter, how do you stop this? Look at the leap. She got above the block.
She works on it so hard, and I was taking some time to watch her in warm-ups, and it looked good. She hits that same angle every time.
She goes 6'2", and she can touch the rim. Pump set to Burgess. Gotta fish it out of the net. Strickland wanted to terminate the point. Williams roll shot, and Landini is there on a knee. Haley Nelson didn't get much on it. Burgess off the block. Crowd wants this point. Williams. This is Washington's chance right here. Gonna get another bite of the apple. Back row attack, Van Zandt. And read by Bud. Williams finishes it for Stanford. Big point and a huge linchpin.
Right off the top, we said this match will make you excited for women's volleyball and what this is going to do for the sport. This is a rally that defines that for me. Both teams battling it. Look at Gilbert. Buck set it to Williams on the outside because Maddie Bug was getting tested by the Huskies.
In a couple hours, you ask Jim McLaughlin about that point. He'll remember it. That was a hard one for Washington to lose. Trying to answer back with Kaylee Nelson. She's been quiet so far, had 14 kills 3 nights ago actually, against California. That was the difference actually. Washington had an extra night. They played a night before Stanford, so they had 3 nights to rest and recover. And of course, they were at home, sleeping in their own beds. But so far, Stanford looks like the better rested team. Bug to Burgess. That's not coming back, it's in the tunnel.
What I love about Nelson for the Huskies, who's out right now in this particular rotation, is the sheer fact that she was an unproven player last year. She's a junior this year. She did not have big numbers from her freshman year, but she worked her way into the lineup, and this year's been no different.
It's a service error by Wopat, just to miss it. When you talk to football coaches or basketball coaches, they'll tell you, you can't win the game early, but you can lose it early. Well, the same thing in volleyball. If John Dunning and Stanford go 2-0 here, they're a 95% winner today. They just got to finish it off. They only have to win 1 out of 3. Neither of these teams has played much to a 5th set. In fact, Stanford hasn't gone to 5. Washington has only gone once into 5 frames, and that's when they beat Gonzaga 3-2.
Good things can happen when Strickland is back to serve. Her team gets the point on that one. Here she goes back again. That last year, an aggressive server who saw her fair share of service aces. Those are down this year. Her aces are up.
Edison High School in Huntington Beach, home of the Chargers. This is one of those chances for Washington to go in front, and again, it slides right past Stanford 13-12.
Strickland's biggest job this year is to try to find the middle ground with her service. But right there, Stanford comes back with the big middle. Ajonaku to silence again the Huskies.
He has 6 kills. So Wopat's the big name for Stanford coming in, but she's 3rd in kills right now. That's another hitting error by Washington. Huskies are above 0, but below 100 in hitting. 0.086%. That is cause for concern. Van Zandt. Gilbert, after the slow down at the net. A little out of system with Stanford. From the middle to Parker. Back row Strickland, there's Gilbert again. Williams, deflected at the net. Falls to the floor, and Stanford leads at the turn, 15-12. John Dunning and Stanford, maybe they knew that USC lost already. Maybe they knew that first place in the Pac-12 is up for grabs. So far, not a happy tune for the home folks. Washington was beaten in the first set by Stanford 25-14. And Stanford leads midway through the second at 15-12. Game faces for the Huskies. Crunch time has come early on Montlake. There's 2 in a row to start against Stanford. It is a long way back. Sabelvin running the pipe down the middle. That timing has been off for them. That was probably the best set and kill for them down the middle.
Well, listen, they lost Amanda Gill and Kelsey Dunaway last year in the middle, and Cy Belden and Wade got a little bit of a time in that middle, but this is a team for the Huskies that needs to set that middle more.
Overpass, one-hand set by Maddie Bug. Are you kidding me? That ball went over her shoulders. She tipped it backwards. Watch her keep it out of the block. That's unreal.
Athletic play, but not surprise. I mean, her mom, Robin Bug, who, by the way, wore number 22, and that's why Maddie does as well, as a Hall of Famer at Tennessee. She was also coached by her mother, Robin, so she grew up in a family and has that volleyball logic lifelong.
Yeah, her mom's in the Hall of Fame at Tennessee. Her full name is Madison Lee Bug.
She is somebody that, when talking with John Dunning at the beginning of the season and just the other week to try to get an update on her growth, he's not surprised at the development of Maddie Bug. He just feels like she continues to have a lot of success from her freshman year to her sophomore year. When this Stanford team lost to Michigan, she went into John Dunning's office and she said, that wasn't good enough and I don't want to go through that again. How can I be better? And to have that mentality as a freshman and want to improve your sophomore year, that's pretty special.
Maturity level, and that's what you want in a setter. Now for a complete wrap-up of the weekend's Pac-12 football matchups, don't miss the Pac-12 playbook. You hear from all the coaches, you get the insight and the annex from the in-studio team. Rick Neuheisel, Ronnie Lott, and Mike Yam. Those guys actually have a really good time. Tune that thing in. It's the Pac-12 playbook. It's tonight at 9 o'clock Pacific on the Pac-12 networks. How about Stanford yesterday? It was homecoming on the farm. They beat UCLA. Bruins came in number 9 in the country. Connor Holiday for Washington State threw the ball 89 times last night in Eugene. That broke Drew Brees, had the old record, which I think was 83. So that's a new FBS record. That one was back in 88. 89 pass attempts. Oregon State beating Cal. So Oregon State and Oregon now are both 6-1. Civil War is setting up. And by the way, Oregon State's only loss was to Eastern Washington.
Yeah, at the very beginning of the season, I was actually up in Oregon State in Corvallis doing a soccer game that weekend that they lost. And the town of Corvallis was quiet, but only to make a great comeback and sit at 6-1. Good for them.
All right, my niece was a gymnast at Oregon State, so I was around that football program for 4 or 5 years. This happens every year with Mike Riley. They always have a stumble early, and then they run off like 7 or 8 wins in a row. Happens every year. You can set your watch. Civil War is going to be awesome this year. Back to volleyball in Montlake. Stanford leading Washington by 4. They've already won the first set. Every point now at a premium. That'll be 4 hits. It gets over, and Washington wins it anyway. Van Zandt just poaching it. Stanford had 5 players standing at her feet.
What a career for Van Zandt so far, and just a junior. Could potentially have one of the best careers here at University of Washington, formerly the #1 ranked prep player. Continues to work and improve her game.
Van Zandt now leads the Huskies 7 kills. That's what we expected coming in. Dini has the back set and a bump over her head and gets to Van Zandt. Give her 8 kills. Washington climbing back into the second set. Jenny Nogueras to the service line. Grew up in Puerto Rico. Splitting the setting duties with Jane Beals. And how that ball got over, you'd be amazed at what Maddie Bug is capable of. We saw the back set, one hand out of the block. How does that ball get over a double block? They had her roofed, and somehow it gets through.
So many people talk about athletic ability. That's not athletic ability. That's Maddie Bug just making a read, just like she did on that one-handed set back behind her to Ingle.
KG, Moxie, Maddie Bug at the net. At some point, Washington has to go on a run.
They do it. They continue to hang around. That's what a good team will do. They are not getting blown up by Stanford like they did in set #1. With 2 points down, this is an opportunity right here to start something.
16 serving 18. Bug back set over. That time she couldn't finish. Play's been unstoppable so far, and now Washington is back within 1. You feel the energy in the room now starting to percolate. Timeout, Stanford. And when you force John Dunning to a timeout,
That's right.
the match is starting to turn. That's Denise Corlett, by the way, the assistant coach at Stanford, standing right with him. Denise Corlett has been on campus at Stanford for 25 years. One of the greatest athletes, tremendous basketball player. She was a national champion in badminton.
You know what her alma mater is?
I should know this.
Well, it's down south in the Pac-12. It's called UCLA.
Yes. Well, don't forget, after the second set, we take a little break. We'll send you back to our Pac-12 Network studios for Ashley Adamson. She'll get you up to speed on all that's going on today. And over the weekend, lots of volleyball today. UCLA at number 22, Arizona State. Utah at number 21, Oregon. And number 1, USC against Arizona. Have all the highlights and a couple of surprises.
It is all so interesting, and always surprises in this conference.
Stanford is 6-1 in conference. Washington is 6-1 in conference. USC, first place, has lost. So first place is on the line. Whoever wins today shares the top of the table in the Pac-12. Van Zandt now has 8 kills and is hitting above 300 for the first time today. She also has 5 digs.
Here's the other thing, Nelson, they're giving her some looks, and she's inspired the rest of her team as well. She's hitting 0, but she was hitting negative for a long time. She's got 4 kills on 4 errors. They continue to give her looks. If she can be accurate and eliminate the hitting errors, Washington's got a chance to crawl back in.
Chance to get even at 18 in the second set. Good dig by Van Zandt. Nelson, it's 18-all.
That's the excitement and the energy that she's giving her team and this great crowd in Alaska Airlines right now. They're going back to the well because they know she's got a little mojo right now and she's feeling it. And she's saying, go ahead, give me the ball, set it high, set it wherever you have to do. I'll give it a good look.
Chance for Washington to go in front. This crowd wants to explode. Great pass though on the slide. It goes out. Does she hit the antenna? See if she hits the antenna. Watch that antenna, and it moves. I thought maybe it came off the block. The crowd just got the announcement, and listen to them roar for the first time today. Washington in front. Now that's what the dog pack wanted. He's had to wait for it. Washington is 6-0 on the home boards. The dog pack shows up for volleyball. They show up for both men's and women's basketball. It all turned around. Stanford had a comfortable advantage here in the second, and then Van Zandt started to find the rhythm.
She possesses all the qualities a good outside hitter needs to possess, but she's also a defensive-minded player. She adjusts to the block. She can hit high hands. She can tool the block off the right-hand side if possible. I've seen her in the past joust. This is a team and a crowd that will rely on Van Zandt, and they love Krista, number 16.
Back in 2011, she was the freshman of the year in the conference for Washington and Jim McLaughlin. It was their first freshman of the year since the great Crystal Morrison back in 2004. The next year, Morrison and the Dogs won the national championship for McLaughlin. That 2005 team was one of the top 5 teams I've ever seen in women's volleyball. They were loaded.
Jim McLaughlin says that he believes that Krista has all the intangibles to be a well-rounded best volleyball player, the fight, the will. The better she gets, the harder it is for her to improve, and of course every team knows her in their scouting report. But great players find a way to get better, and that's what Krista Van Zandt does.
Jim McLaughlin just lives volleyball. You mentioned that he won a national championship here with Washington, with the women, with the USC men before that. He was an All-American. He played at Santa Barbara. He said, what, national championship at the junior college level too. Dude knows the sport. Oh, Van Zandt stayed with it. Tried to eat her alive. Bug, back set, fake the roll puck to Williams instead. Fire drill on the Washington side of the net. And they win the point anyway. Hey, Tammy, they don't ask how many, they just ask how. How do you win it? You stay in the point. 20-18 Washington. 50-50 ball, and Bud couldn't do much with that one. And here come the Dogs.
She had it, and she read it. She and Van Sant have the hot hand. With Wade getting that last point, it gave Nelson a chance to set up and do this. That back corner was wide open. She spots it.
Shank, ace, 22-18. Ah, a smile on the face of Van Sant.
And remember, one of the keys to this match for Stanford was to be able to attack the aggressive serve of Washington and beat it by good passing. Struggling a bit.
Howard couldn't finish the point. Gilbert lucky to keep it alive. Howard, another look. This is Washington's rally if they want it. Miss hit. Kaylee Nelson tried to get on top of it and caught a flyer.
Van Sant is doing some great work in the back to get that ball into the hands of the setter, Nogueras.
Crowd really wants this point. Washington really needs this set. That's wide. Missed it wide. Melanie Wade got a little excited, saw some open court, and overcooked it. That was a big point. Let's see. Ooh, any part of the ball touches any part of the line, and it's in. Now the linesman right there, that's not the best angle to see it. You and I question it.
Well, they immediately made the call, though.
Yeah, and Washington didn't argue.
Call.
All right, let's take a look at the Pac-12 standings. Remember, USC was not only first in the conference, they were #1 in the nation when they woke up this morning. No longer. They were not only beaten, they were swept by Arizona in 3. So Dave Rubio's feeling pretty good about his Cats right now. USC now is 7-1 in conference and right behind Washington and Stanford. So we told you before, whoever wins this, tied for first in the conference. And the rankings are involved as well. Either Texas or Florida is going to move into the top spot, but the Pac-12 is going to have 3 teams in the top 7.
No surprise, year in and year out, the consistency of women's volleyball, we see it across the spectrum in the Pac-12.
Arizona moves into 4th. We had Arizona on the Pac-12 networks out in Pullman last week, a match that went almost 3 hours before they won it. That was big for them. That's a young team getting better. All right, so Washington leading 22-20. They just missed that point. They would have led 23-19. Stanford right now is going to come back in the next 5 points. Where are they going to go? Because they've lost the rhythm offensively.
Well, first of all, you got Carly Wopat in. You got Williams and you got Howard. This is a very good attacking front line for Stanford. Bug is a very good server. If she can get a good serve off, they've got a chance to rattle off a few points under her leadership.
Garris back set. Burgess out of the back wall. Nelson again, 23-20.
Jim McLaughlin asked Kaylee Nelson to take a big stride from her freshman to sophomore year. And then he says she did. Now she's got to take another big stride sophomore to junior year. I'd say her stride is pretty good right now.
Buck back set to Wopat. Got stuck. It's set point for the Dogs.
Confidence, Bree. Confidence. Van Sant got it going. Nelson got it going. And look what Cy Belden does on the block. They set it and they close it out, and that's a big point.
4 set points for Washington. Anybody gonna get there? No. Give a kill to Rachel Williams. Second set point. Garris runs the middle. Liana Cy-Belden got the block, got the kill. Washington gets the set.
Washington has been using the excitement of this crowd here today at Alaska Airlines in set number 2 to rattle off the last 7 points. and enjoy it. Now they even things up with the Stanford Cardinal and sit in a better position going into set number 3.
Yeah, everything turned around in that second set for Washington. Remember, Stanford won the first set pretty easily, 25-14. Washington digs down and comes right back. Jim McLaughlin, the Washington head coach, joins us now. Jimmy, that's a big turnaround in the second set for you guys.
For sure. You know, after giving them 8 points in the first game, you know, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot, but then we kind of got into a rhythm, gave them 2 points, they gave us back 2, and then it was just straight volleyball.
Coach, I can't help but compliment the outside hitters in set number 2, but I got to give it to Van Sant, who sat in the back, has worked on her passing. Boy, was she working hard to get it to Nogueras. How big was she as a passer in set 2?
That's the deal right there. If we take care of the ball on that first contact, we're a really good team, and Chris is a good player, and when she does that, she's a great player.
Jim, thanks for your time. I'll let you get inside.
Thank
Jim
you.
McLaughlin, the head coach, University of Washington, national champion in 2005, and looking to take the Dogs to the second season. The NCAA tournament for the 11th year in a row. The Final Four in women's college volleyball this year is in Seattle. We knew we were going to have an excellent match today, and so far we're getting it. Stanford comes in number 7, Washington is number 6. They split the first 2 sets. John Dunning, the Stanford head coach, joins us down on the floor. And Coach, you didn't play that badly in the second set. Even though you lost it, you still hit 3-14. To me, Washington made all those adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, Jim's a great coach, and they're a very, very disciplined team, and they're going to make some changes on you. They did. Their middles got a little bit more active and hurt us that game. They hit some balls off our blocks, so we must have been reaching. And I think we just got to get back to fundamentals a little bit. I think we played a little better in game 1, but game 2, they did a great job.
And Coach, do you think anything had to do with momentum? I mean, it seemed like once Seibeldon and Wade for Washington got active in the middle, it kept your blockers guessing a little bit. What can you do to settle down?
Yeah, I really didn't think we served and passed very well that game. And it just gets back to that. If we do that, the dominoes will happen in our direction a little bit better. Yeah, they kind of fell on top of us at the end of that game.
Appreciate the time, Coach. We'll let you get back to work.
You bet, thanks.
John Dunning, head coach for Stanford in his 13th season. 2-time National Coach of the Year, 4-time Conference Coach of the Year. Let's take a look at some of the highlights early on. Stanford was awesome in the first set. They hit 351. Carly Wopat got a good start, but she only has 4 kills so far in the match.
And she only has 2 errors. I mean, she's been solid, but this is a balanced team that they got Stanford Cardinal players involved like Jordan Burgess. How about for Washington, though, in set number 2, it was Van Sant and Nelson who picked up the pace in terms of hitting percentage, and I thought Van Sant did a nice job when she was in the back row to get that ball to the hands of Nogueras, who could set Nelson.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Washington was much cleaner in that second set. Remember, in the first set, Washington had minus 26. In the second set, 310. If you don't know volleyball, think of it like batting averages, except you can't go negative in baseball. Well, the best of 5 is now the best of 3. But this is what we expected. This is what we promised at the top. 2 of the best teams in the country, 2 Hall of Fame coaches. So they split the first 2. Stanford was fantastic in the first set, and they weren't too bad in the second, but Washington really bumped their game. Trade sides. Stanford now will be on the right side. Washington on the left in their home whites. 5,000 inside Alaska Airlines Arena. Start the third set. Inkia Janaku, the 2-hand flush. 1-0 Stanford, all 3 sets. Stanford has gotten a point early. Washington actually got the first point of the match, but after that, Stanford went on a nice run. The block, Janaku and Burgess. Finish it. Maddie Bug all by herself in the middle of the court. Jim Watson, Tammy Blackburn inside Alaska Airlines Arena in Seattle, Washington. Big match. Number 7 Stanford, number 6 Washington. USC, first place in the conference, has lost already today. So whoever wins this match pulls even at the top of the Pac-12 standings.
Van Sant on that point working at both ends. Williams serving hard, making Van Sant pick that one up out of the bag, but she gets it into the hands of the setter, and then she does the extra work on the outside.
Overpass. Melanie Wade finished it quickly. You dream about those overpasses.
Like Dunning said, just a few minutes ago in that interview with us. It comes back for him just serving and passing.
Basics, fundamentals. That's how he's been doing it for so long. 13 years at Stanford for John Dunning. 28 years as a head coach at collegiate level. Set the middle to Wade. That's a lift on Stanford. Point Washington is the earliest in any of the sets that Washington has led. Wasn't going to get across. Well, Dunning's been watching this game a long time. He told us it's serving and passing. And for Stanford, the serving and the passing hasn't been good so far in the third. They need to clean it up. They were super clean in the first, and as Jim McLaughlin told us going off, the Washington head coach, we gave him 8 points in the first set. He's talking about the hitting errors.
And then you get a net violation by Inky Ajanaku, who slaps her hands and says, turns around and looks at her teammates and say, hey, that one is on me. This is a Husky team that will take advantage of those, especially having the momentum and a victory at set number 2.
It's why you see front row players always holding their hands up by their shoulders so that when you bring them out of the holsters, they hit the bottom of the net. Be able to take it across? Yes. Dug by Wade. Middle to Inky Ajanaku. Outside set to Nelson. There was a touch. Either a touch or a net violation on Stanford. Washington gets the point. First time today we've seen Stanford a little rowdy. Passing and serving so well in the first. Started to fall apart a little in the second. Has not come back in the third. Howard, hit by Van Zandt. Nelson double block, Inky Ajanaku. And she had a little help there from Brittany Howard.
Out goes Inky on a big block with Howard. In comes Carly Wopat. You've got Bug, Howard, and Wopat up front. Don't forget, Bug set her up top. She can dunk. Expect maybe something from Wopat on the slide.
And Sam Gilbert's there, but it carries across the net. 50-50. Bug got stuffed, ended up on her backside. Point for the Huskies.
It was interesting. I was watching Wopat. She was getting ready for the pass. She got back in transition. She gets off the net, hits the 3-meter line, and realized, oh no, that's an overpass. I've got to try to get up. Not enough reactionary time to get there to try to get the block.
That's in.
And did you see it, Jim? They were going to try to run the slide to Wopat, which is no surprise for me that they were going to call that. But with a bad pass, and then Bug has to react and just punch it. Wopat can do nothing except just get it over.
Are you telling me that the slide for Stanford is their binky? And they need a little comfort, that's what they go to?
I think they don't have an answer, Washington, for Wopat on it.
It pays off at 90%. I would run it as well.
And it does for Cal as well. And I think that's why Cal runs it so much.
Timeout. Now John Dunning has to burn the timeout early. Right now Stanford, at least by their standards, a little bit of a mess. Washington rallied to win the second set. It's 1-1, and Washington leads 8-4 in the third.
This is the Quicken Loans team. A team dedicated to providing clients with an amazing home loan experience. For 3 years in a row, J.D. Power & Associates has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction. Because amazing client service isn't just something we aim for, it's what we live for. Quicken Loans, for a mortgage experience that's engineered to amaze.
Saturday, we have Pac-12 football covered with a huge doubleheader. At 1, Travis Wilson and the Utes are back on the Pac-12 networks and primed for battle against the USC Trojans in the Coliseum. Then at 5, Kadeem Carey and the Arizona Wildcats roar into Boulder to face Mike McIntyre and the Colorado Buffaloes. Pre-game coverage begins Saturday at 12 on Pac-12 Networks.
Back inside Alaska Airlines Arena, Washington leading Stanford 8-4 in the third. Each team has won a set. Well, some sad news today for Washington fans. The announcement of the passing of longtime football coach Don James, who died at the age of 80. 18 seasons as the head coach beginning in 1975. Won a share of the 91 national title. Character, charisma, and class. And to generations of Washington fans, he will always be the Dog Father. Strickland. We haven't heard from Cassie Strickland since the first set. 9-4. So we've seen both teams at their best, and now that Stanford is struggling, both teams at its worst. Wopat wants it back. And Bug just tried to push it. Bug is asking for interference. Now that ball is hers. That's the setter's ball until it crosses the net. She cannot be interfered with. She immediately appealed to the up official and got no love. John Dunning, Denise Corlett, they are Stanford Volleyball. Ace! And Stanford just seemed to be in suspended animation.
John Dunning has to call a timeout.
What in the world has happened to Stanford? Denise Corlett stands up, goes right to Maddie Bug and says, that's all right, that's all right. I think Maddie maybe got a little upset that the call didn't come and she wasn't ready to get back into play.
Yeah, well, John Dunning just gave her a pat on the back, and Denise Corlett says, hey, just let's settle down. But what he really wants to talk about right now is serving and passing, and that's what it goes back to right now. That miscue between Burgess and Howard on that last serve by Washington allows the Huskies to continue to pull away.
We've talked about Denise Corlett, the assistant who's been there 25 years for Stanford, but also on the staff is Jason Mansfield, and he's been there a dozen years. The reason I bring it up, that just speaks to the consistency of the Stanford program. Dunning's been there 13 years. Mansfield's been there a dozen. Corlett's been there 25 years. If you're a young volleyball player in the country and you're 5 years from college, you say, I want to go to Stanford because I want to play for John Dunning and Denise Corlett and Mansfield because you know they're going to be there. Same thing really can be said for Washington. Leslie Gabriel has been on McLaughlin's staff all 13 years. He's been here as well. Jim McLaughlin and the Huskies wearing the pink today for breast cancer awareness. Saw a great stat earlier today on the big screen that now breast cancer survivors reaching their 5th year, the survivor mark, 90%. 1960, it was 60%.
And then, I'll tell you, Jim, it hurts everybody. We know somebody. Last year, my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, and can't thank everybody enough for the donations they make with breast cancer awareness. And it makes a difference. You don't understand that $5, $10, it makes a difference. There's good medication out there, and that's why, like you said, the survivorship is pretty strong today.
Yeah, 1 out of 3 Americans somewhere in their family have been touched by breast cancer.
Well, my sister-in-law is alive today because of it.
Block at the net by Carly Wopat. Much needed stop by Stanford. Washington's been on a run since the second set began. And we're in the third. Blocked by Wopat. She had some help from Howard. Howard's been teaming up with anybody who slides over from the middle on that left side.
This is what you worry about when you're the Huskies. When Stanford comes out of a break, that John Dunning called a timeout, and they rattle off a few points. That's how good the Cardinal are, but a service error right back to the Huskies.
Second service error of the day for Maddie Bug. Miss it. There's Cassie Strickland. Cassie Strickland actually played Pop Warner football for 3 years when she was a kid. She was a quarterback, but she was also a linebacker, so she can bomb.
I'm not surprised. Look at the serve she just rattled off.
And there's an ace.
No pass there, opportunity for Stanford. This is where the crowd gets excited. You just got to appreciate that her service aces continue to rise and her service errors continue to get lower. That's exactly what Jim McLaughlin wanted her out of her this season.
All freshmen, honorable mention a season ago. Slide to Wopat, it just wasn't there. She went wide, the set was short. Off the hands of Gilbert, chased down by Burgess, and Gilbert takes it across. We play on. Again, it was Bug scrambling. Defense for Stanford wins the point. Look at the Stanford bench. They didn't want that one. They needed that one.
Well, it was interesting because the first opportunity was Bug to Wopat, and they missed that. And I looked over at John Dunning, and he shrugged his shoulders. But Burgess coming back to keep that one alive and giving the Stanford Cardinal the point.
Winner, Liana Seifelden.
There's nothing Gilbert can do on that. She's in great position as libero. She sees the block. She also sees the hitters. She knows their tendencies. That one got redirected by a tip off the front block, and nothing Gilbert could do.
Dini. Take to Wopat, go to Williams. And Zant rolls up the arms of Bug. Burgess crushed it. Tip off of Williams. Van Zant with the left. Just kind of slapped at it. She knows she got away with one there. Little coy smile.
I got to tell you right now, for me with Stanford, it's just about composure. It's battling through the Huskies' continued aggression, and that's what John Dunning is doing. He's standing up, clapping, trying to keep his team relaxed and settled in.
Overpass again. Melanie Way. And Dunning is looking at his bench. He's going to make a change. He's going to make 2 changes. And we're going to see some new faces on the court. Mary Ellen Luck for Stanford is coming in, number 20.
Well, it is tough for the Huskies to fill in and have the defensive dominance this year that the Huskies grew accustomed to last year with Kelsey Dunaway as well as Amanda Gill. But that's a nice job right there with the Huskies coming back and killing that overpass.
Morgan Bokather is also in for Stanford. Neither has played in the match yet. Down the line, it's in. Look at Jordan Burgess. After she converts the kill, stamps her foot, pumps her hands, and then does it again. She's trying to get everybody. She's trapped up right now for Stanford. Van Zant, that's in. Painting the back corner.
When you get a player that's good on the outside hitting and brings numbers like Van Zant, and then in the back row is one of the best passers, you've got a chance to win championships, whether that's a league championship or a national championship. This is a player that gives her team a chance.
Burgess. Well, I'd go to Burgess every time right now. Look at her pumping her fist. Nobody's more pumped up than Burgess right now. She is leading Stanford. She is keeping them from falling into the abyss.
When you watch the Stanford Cardinal highlight reel, this is what you see Burgess. This is what she's all about. She lives it. She loves it. She absolutely enjoys the spirit of playing volleyball, and yet off the court, she's a quiet, humble kid.
We talked about her in the open, how important she is to this attack. Van Zant with a facial. 18-9.
Krista Van Zant gets another kill for one more point. Huskies. Van Zant to serve.
Another overpass, but Maddie Bug got there, but she's into the net. Boy, it is a tough day, and Bug is frustrated. She says, "You kidding me? Forget about it."
Yeah, her body language in this set number 3 has shown that.
It's a throw.
Yep.
No, she hit the net.
She hit the net.
On the
it was a net
follow-through.
violation.
That's what it was. Ace! Oh, it's all coming up purple now.
And I'm not surprised here. You're going to see Howard come in this rotation. Marianne Luck going to check back out.
Van Zant, another double-double. That's 3 matches in a row against Stanford that Van Zant has posted a double-double. Previous 2, though, Stanford won the match. Back set, Inky Ajanaku. Hadn't gone to Inky in a while. If Wopat doesn't work on the slide, you know Inky's going to pay off. 10 serving 20. third set. One apiece so far. Nelson.
Sometimes you just own the set, Jim. And Washington Huskies are making quite the statement. This is their set.
Just think how awful they played in the first set and how well they're playing now. Heck, they turned it around from the first set to the second. That's an ace. Gilbert just took her eye off it, or maybe it was swerving just a bit. Gilbert's not going to miss 2 of those in a match. That's a serious circle right there. They know they're in trouble.
Service aces continue to mount throughout all matches on the stat sheet, as well as their conference match on the stat sheet. A very good serving Husky team.
There you go. That's Howard. And here's the thing. Stanford fans might be saying, well, forget it. This set is a lost cause. Let it go. We'll get them in the fourth. If you're going to start now, you got the momentum when the fourth starts. You can't wait until that's set. You can't just mail it in. You've got to start playing better now. There is a rollover effect. Nelson, with a roll shot. Somebody got a pancake in there. You can hear the squeak off the floor. Van Zandt to the donut in the defense, filled by Gilbert. Williams missed it.
Too far out of bounds. Sign up and put Huskies. Kylie Munoz and Katie
23-11. And Katie Beals comes in to serve. She will serve and then set. Born in Seattle, but she left when she was a year old, grew up in Austin, Texas. Maddie Bug and Wopat. Complete confusion. Well, the back official said in, the linesman said out, and I believe there's a violation on Stanford. It all adds up to a point for Washington. Set point. 13 set points for Washington. They need 1 to go in front. Strickland. The Huskies were a mess to start the match. They showed up a little bit late. Melanie Wade with the ace. Huskies win 25-11. It's 2-1. Nobody serves better in the Pac-12 than the Washington Huskies. 101 aces coming in. Katie Beals had 2 today.
They just are an aggressive serving team. Let me give you some perspective. All matches, 96 serving aces. Their opponents, only 26. Conference only, 31 service aces, only 9 by their opponents. They have 4 times as many service aces, and they continue to eliminate their service errors. Now, they have not played USC yet, and that will certainly change when Samantha Bricio steps up and aggressively serves them. But a good job by Huskies.
4-to-1's a good ratio. 7-to-1 is a better ratio. Yeah, that's what it was until recently. Washington 7 and Stanford 1. Well, we've been watching the attack percentage throughout the day. Stanford is now under 300. They were well over 300. Even in the second set when they lost, they hit 314. So to me, that means the Washington defense is better.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're stepping up big time, and not quite defensive dominance because Stanford continue to have their way on certain plays with certain rotations, but just a bad third set by Stanford, and it didn't feel to me like Carly Wopat and Maddie Bug were on the same page.
No, they ran into each other one time looking like a quarterback and a tailback going on opposite sides. They were lucky to keep that rally going. They ended up losing the point anyway. But Stanford has just lost their rhythm, and it's been gone for a while. See Gilbert talking to Burgess and Howard. Everybody trying to stay on the same page here and saying, okay, all we have to do is win this fourth set. Then we go to a fifth and we play to 15. So for Stanford, it's all about getting off to a quick start. Jenny Nagaris to serve to start the fourth. See if the passing and the setting is better. Bump set cross court. Back to the net. It's Maddie Bug. Alexander already has a double-double. Go middle to Wopat. Carly Wopat has 5 kills. But is hitting 231. She needs to get that number closer to 300.
Quick turn by Wopat. She didn't have much time when that ball crossed the net. She had to get back, didn't quite hit that 3-meter line, but got off a good shot.
Back set to Van Zandt. Burgess back row dig. Howard, and it's 2-0 Stanford. I would be more surprised if Stanford did not play a great fourth set than if they continued the way they were. I've never seen Stanford play three bad sets in a row.
I would agree. I would expect Stanford to come out and have really gotten their act together. I think it's more mental than anything.
Yep. Flush and Wade couldn't finish it. Howard tips and hit the floor. That's a point Stanford, 3-0. Just what the Cardinal needed. And timeout Washington.
Yeah,
well, we saw
call.
Dunning do it before.
Sure.
When Stanford was down, he could feel the rhythm off. McLaughlin does it here.
You gotta stop the bleeding early.
Timeout in the fourth set. 3-0 Stanford. We saw Stanford circle the wagons, almost literally, to start this fourth frame. They had to win it. They had played terribly in both the second and the third, at least the latter stages of the second. Washington leading 2-1, but Stanford up now 3-1 in the fourth. Van Zandt has 13 kills. Jim Watson, Tammy Blackburn on the Pac-12 networks inside Alaska Airlines Arena on the campus of UW. Teams came in number 6 and number 7 in the country. Washington with the higher ranking. Howard, roll shot down the line. Garris read it. Cassie Strickland. Boy, I'm impressed with Cassie Strickland today. I didn't expect to see this kind of offensive attack from her.
Did you see the work that she did on the block with Wade? I mean, they blocked. Good Wopat. Hit high hands. The ball was in play, and then her team saying, all right, I'm going to give you another look. You're 5'8". You give up some inches, but you don't give power.
Stanford came out, had to play well in the set, won the first 3. Then McLaughlin calls the timeout, and all of a sudden Washington turns it on. You think coaches don't have an effect? This is all Jimmy Mack right now. He calls the timeout. They had nothing going. They come out, they're on fire. Nelson covered by Wade. Strickland got stuffed. Wopat and Howard.
This is a Husky team that needs Strickland to hit, well, about 200. They need her to hit about 20%. She's hitting 188. She was hitting 246 before that. If Strickland can give them about 200 and the rest can do their job, Van Zandt and others, it's a good Husky team.
4-4 in the fourth. That's long. Wade goes out. Orlandini back into the back row, the libero for Washington, and Wopat to serve.
And look at the Cardinal front line. Inky Ajanaku, Burgess, Williams.
All 3 are right there. Burgess and Inky. Strickland cuffs one down the line.
Wow.
And then does a victory dance afterwards.
That's pretty good considering who was showing for block. Look at Strickland, it's a high outside set. That's Williams and Inky, but Strickland takes the line and just blows it past Williams.
Such a gutsy shot, trying to go inside the antenna, right past the block, tuck it in the corner. Kept alive, but outside the antenna by Cassie Strickland. Point goes to Stanford.
She's got 8 kills, 5 errors. She flip-flops, she hits 235, then she goes down to 150, then she gets back up with a big power hit. At the end of the day, just needs to be consistent.
Stanford giving away a few points in this set from the service line. Rachel Williams says, my bad.
And guess who behind the line to serve?
Cassie Strickland. Big throw. That's a beach throw. Burgess right into the block, and it came right back at her. That run up, told you she was locked and loaded.
No surprise there with Munoz, top-ranked blocking outside hitter in the conference last year, over 1 per set.
Another big serve. Joniku got blocked. Good cover by Williams. Burgess wants it again. And Zant. Williams. 3 Huskies were there. They all backed away from it. 7-7.
You get the feeling, Jim, that this could be one of those sets that has a lot of set points.
Strickland had it roll up her elbow. 8-7 Stanford.
Upset out of the back, and Williams is going to attack that.
Burgess with the floaty. And Zant right at Gilbert. 8-8.
Gilbert is one of those players that doesn't back down. I mean, she has terrific instinct. She's one of those players that says, all right, go ahead, give me everything you got. Show me your best shot. The Huskies did. That's huge.
Van Zant 14-14. Dug by Strickland. Tight set, trap set. All Van Zant could do was bump it with her backhand, but it was enough. It threw everybody off. Just let it float over the block. Orlandini for Washington. Out of rotation, Stanford. It's going to be a point for Washington.
These are uncharacteristic errors, Jim, for Stanford. They look disheveled. I mean, they
disorganized.
They've caught back up, but they do look disorganized, just not on their A game in set 3 or 4.
I looked over at John Dunning, the Stanford coach. He's standing in front of the bench with his hands in his pockets. And he's going to call a timeout. He is trying to save them from themselves right now. Service errors, out of rotation, frozen on the service receive. And it's slipping away. If Washington wins the set, it is all over. Last year, these two teams met at Montlake. It went the distance. Kristen Van Zant had 24 kills and then a career-high 6 blocks. Carly Wolpak, 15 kills and 2 blocks. Stanford did not hit well. It was a season low for them, but they ended up winning the match in 5. Stanford to Washington, the last 4 in Seattle. Yours and mine, little ham and egg. They just keep trading off. The last 2 have gone 5 sets. If Stanford's going to win today, it's got to go 5 sets, and Stanford has not gone 5 sets this entire year. Washington has done it once.
A little bit more excitement last year, if you will. It was really weird. Washington went up and beat Stanford in 2 sets, 25-10, then absolutely crushed them, and then Stanford came back only to have several set points apiece, and then in the 5th, Stanford walked away with the victory. Today, it looks a little bit more in favor of the Huskies.
Jim McLaughlin said this after last year's match, but it's appropriate for today as well. He said, there are only so many opportunities in life, and the match wasn't about the numbers. If we make one more play, we're out of here in 4, maybe in 3 sets. They ended up losing in 5.
That's what I was talking about. It was set point time and time again, or in their case last year, it was match point, and they just couldn't put it away. Stanford came back in that 5th set, and they walked away, going back to the Palo Alto area with a victory on the road.
Serving 8 in the 4th. Stanford must win to extend the match. Joniku got slowed down by the double block. Van Zant off the double block, cross court, and it falls. It's 12-8.
These are some of the plays that usually you see Stanford handle easily.
serve, receive, passing, serving, it's all gone away from Stanford. Burgess is trying to calm everybody down. Right now, Stanford is on the ropes. Dogs are on a 6-0 streak. Howard, much needed. Stops the bleeding. Number 7, Stanford. Number 6, Washington. Inside Alaska Airlines Arena in Seattle on the Pac-12 networks. Jim Watson, Tammy Blackburn. A share of first place in the conference is on the line. Stanford won the first set and quite easily, 25-14. Washington has come back to win both the second and the third, and they lead in the fourth. Bug has to choose carefully there. Richard Williams and Melanie Wade was tracking it.
Let me remind you that off the top, in set number 1, we told you that Stanford had 2 keys to this match. First of all, they had to handle the aggressive serve and pass out of the aggressive serve of the Huskies. Their passing has been less than stellar. Number 2, they had to put pressure on the Huskies because they realize the Huskies are disciplined and they're not going to fall apart. They've not been able to execute those 2 keys, thus Washington with the lead in set number 4.
The pressure now falls to Maddie Bug, the setter for Stanford. She has not only got to make the right decision, she has got to deliver the ball on target, because Stanford can afford no more errors, no more hitting errors, no more serve receive, and certainly no more service errors. And there is Maddie Bug, who has 2 service errors today. Middle to Wade. Howard, winner for Stanford. Here they come.
You don't get the passing you want, you can't set the middle. Certainly you can check that off your list. And 2, you're going to start hitting out of system, and Washington will eat you up if that's the case.
Huskies protecting a 3-point lead. Van Zandt and dug by Bug. Shoveled across by Howard. Back set, Van Zandt. Howard steps on one cross court. That's 2 in a row. Throws her hands in the air. Stanford has a heartbeat. Timeout, Jim McLaughlin and Washington.
I got to tell you, that was big. You might think that that point would come from Burgess out in the back, Williams on the opposite, or Wopat in the middle. Oh no, one of the great sophomores for the Stanford Cardinal, and there's a bunch of them, Maddie Bug, Jordan Burgess, but Brittany Howard, a spectacular player that has wowed me throughout her sophomore year.
Get caught up on everything that's been happening in the Pac-12. Pac-12 Sports Report. All the latest scores, the highlights, the interviews, from volleyball to soccer to football. And don't forget water polo. Don't ever forget about water polo.
That's you, Jim. That's
you. It's the Pac-12 Sports Report, Monday at 9 o'clock on the Pac-12 networks. Talking about the latest scores from women's volleyball. All 4 matches today have been sweeps, but take your attention to the bottom. USC, first in the conference, number 1 in the country, and they get a bagel hung on them by Arizona.
Good for Dave Rubio and company. That's one they needed. Arizona now sits in 4th place in the Pac-12 standings.
That's an amazing victory for Arizona. Not that they win it, but that they win it 3-0. It just shows the parity of this conference, the depth. John Dunning and Stanford, number 7. Jim McLaughlin and Washington are number 6. USC was number 1 to start. Oregon's a top 25 team, and now Arizona beats USC.
Interesting that Washington Huskies, they have yet to face USC. They're going to go on the road. That's their next trip down to LA. Then they get to bring USC back home. Stanford already faced USC at the Galen Center. They lost in 3. They get a chance to bring the Trojans up to Maples Pavilion and beat them up there.
Stanford, they're going to go home and meet Oregon on Wednesday. Then they'll have Oregon State on Friday. Stuff block. Wopat. It's either Wopat or Williams.
Stanford has turned it around.
Whistle. Stanford's into the net. I think they got Rachel Williams. 15 serving 13. 4 set. Washington up 2-1. Krista Van Zandt. Back row. Howard. Well, I'd go to Howard every time right now because she is just crushing it.
Well, it was a big dig by Gilbert. She didn't quite get the pass she wants off to Maddie Bug. Maddie Bug had good range to go out and get that ball, and a long set. That was a big-time crush by Howard.
Stanford can get even at 15, and a service error, and it was by Brittany Howard who brought Stanford back. And for a moment, Washington can breathe. 16 serving 14. Buzz the net. Off the block and down, Rachel Williams.
Rachel Williams.
Rachel Williams has 7 kills. Stanford still led by Brittany Howard with 13. Burgess has 10. How about Inky Ajanaku with a roof?
Well, it was her turn to check in this rotation. Gilbert, of course, comes out. Inky Ajanaku in. Look at Burgess and Ajanaku just close out that block. Ajanaku with those long arms and long lanes. Well, she leans over and penetrates.
That last step was 3 feet. I don't know how she got that far sideways that quickly. Go back to Inky, why not? She's all pumped up. Now that's a great decision by Maddie Bach. Ajanaku with the 10 and 4. Stanford back over 300 on the day, 306. Washington hitting 197. But Washington has the lead in the match. The nuance, volleyball. Williams is touched twice and goes out. Stanford goes right past Washington and goes in front 18-16.
This is appropriate time to talk about Inky Ajanaku, and what John Dunning appreciates is that she's got a great personality, good energy, but he always wants her to be able to compete because he believes inside she is a competitor. She has to find the right time.
That's going to be Stanford into the net. Yeah, on the pike, Williams and Ajanaku both wanted it so badly they reached for it and caught the net.
What Ajanaku is learning is that you can't always have that or be that fun-loving personality. Sometimes you've got to let your inner competitor come out, and she's been doing that. She's been a little bit more serious the last few points. She knows she can be competitive but have fun.
Have a little fun, it's volleyball. Ajanaku, one-hander, skyhook, did not get to the floor. I don't know how Cassie Strickland does it. Against a double block, both players much taller than her, and she slips one through. You want to hit against that? Cassie does. After a 4-0 Stanford run, Washington wins 2 points in a row. We're back to 18-18, and now Williams makes it 19-18 Stanford.
You know that stat I was talking to you about Strickland? She's got 10 kills, 5 errors. She's hitting 250. Again, a team that emphasizes if we hit over 200, or at least 200 with her, 20%, that's what they need for them to be good and have a chance.
Munoz hasn't got a lot of looks on the outside. There's Burgess. Ball high into the lights and chased down by Orlandini. Taken across by Van Zandt. Free ball for Stanford. Ajanaku into the block, and it goes out. Point Stanford, 2018.
I'm not sure how. I've never seen a middle hitter tool the block in the middle of the floor. Never. And it just happened.
Ball went sideways 13 feet to get out. That's the force. We're back to the middle, and Ajanaku says, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here all day. How do you like me now? It goes out. It goes out, point Washington.
Penetration in her open hands with those fingers long. She just hit the tips of the fingertips. That ball would have gone straight down if she could have gotten more hand on that.
Burgess, winner, 21-19. Burgess just has some grit to her, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, she's another one of those sophomore. She's a member of that U.S. Youth National Team. Some great experience. She's been playing volleyball for a lot of years. All Pac-12 freshman team last year.
On a run right now. She had 9 kills at Washington State, but hit 474 in the match. Van Zandt, and that's dug by Burgess, and it goes over. Van Zandt again. Dug by Williams, but it ends up in a big crowd in Seattle. 20 serving 21. Played at 25, win by 2. Huskies win the set. It's over. Stanford wins this 4-set. Played a 15 for the match. Gilbert. Two Stanford players run into one another, but it worked. Back set by Beals, into the block, covered by Strickland. Tipped by Van Zandt, blocked by Ajanaku. It's 10 blocks for Stanford, number 1 in the conference in that category. Kyle Gilbert to serve, up 2. Back row attack Burgess. And Gilbert couldn't get to it, ran into her setter who had fallen to the floor. Stanford is 3 points away from extending the match. Washington 4 points away from ending the match.
I think I gotta tell you, this is the set that I was looking for in set number 1 and set number 3. But we're getting it in set number 4, and it couldn't be better timing.
Maddie Bug goes and it hits the floor. Dump and chase, and she got it. 23-21. She did it once early, brings it back late.
Boy, did the Cardinal need a good pass in these next 2 series.
Nelson. Gilbert defending herself with one hand, overpass. Smart play by Van Zandt. As a giveaway by Stanford.
Stanford just needs to shake it off in Washington. They need to go right back where that came from and get another one.
Now Stanford needs 2 points to survive for the 5th. Washington needs 3 to end it. Could go either way. Howard, dunked by Orlandini. Williams roll shot, she was off the net. Parker blocked. Blocked again, point Stanford. It is set point, 24-22.
Liberos for both teams taking the second ball. And a good job of attacking on behalf of the Huskies as well as the Cardinal to try to take the setters out of it.
The dog pack rises to its feet. Stanford needs 1. Wade tips, kept alive, pushed over, and to the back row. Oh, how savvy, how moxie, how cagey is Maddie Bug, the kid from North Carolina with a sense of Southern style. Everybody scrambling on the floor, and Maddie Bug keeps her head and says, nobody's home. We're going to a 5th.
Well, the Stanford Cardinal doing it the way they like to do it in set number 4, fine fashion. It was a must-win for the Cardinal. As Washington was looking to have match point, but they could not do it. Iki Ajanaku, the sophomore for the Stanford Cardinal, getting it all done, and there she is back out on the court to start this rotation in set number 5, although she might come out, it might be Gilbert.
Yeah, Iki Ajanaku has 5 blocks in the match. Wopat has 6 for Stanford. As a team, they have 11 blocks. 25-22 Stanford in the 4th. So best of 5 became the best of 3, and now becomes the first one to 15. Well, we're seldom right, but 3 hours ago we told everybody it was going 5 sets.
We called it on Friday. We were down in the LA area, USC, Arizona Soccer. We were promoting this, and we said, oh, you think that'll go 5 sets? And you said, you bet ya.
Of course.
And as expected, Gilbert, number 10, the libero for Stanford. Inky goes to the bench.
How about Maddie? Maddie Bug with 43 assists, but the play I'm going to remember when I get on the plane tonight is that 4-set game winner, the no-look flick to the back corner with a big crowd on its feet, a hostile environment, kept her head about her.
You think that that is a daughter of a coach? You betcha.
Sure. You mentioned before her mom, member of the Hall of Fame at Tennessee.
Robin Bug, they both wore number 22.
Maddie waits at the service line. Played at 15, still got to win by 2. The winner is in first place in the conference. Off the net, play on. Cassie Strickland. Gets turned back.
Good coverage by Burgess.
Right back to Kirby. Heaney pump sets to Van Zandt behind her. It's going to carry across. Free ball for the Dogs. Winner, Munoz. And Kayla Munoz, I believe I gave credit to Strickland when it was Munoz before. I'm so used to seeing Strickland out on that far side. So Munoz, 2 kills in a row to start the 5th. Rachel Williams with the bomb. 1 serving 2. Inside Alaska Airlines Arena on the Pac-12 networks. Jim Watson, Tammy Blackburn. Number 6 Washington, number 7 Stanford. We are in the 5th set. Washington leads 2-1. Now Washington leads 3-1. First one to 15, got to win by 2.
Smart attacking by the Huskies.
Jenny Nagaris, senior from Puerto Rico.
Those hurt you even more in a 5th set where you only played at 15.
Now you're all pumped up, you know it's big. You want to uncork a good one. Now, Carly Wopat has to do the same thing. Control the emotions. Just slap at it, put it in play. That was touched at the net. Point Washington. It's 4-2.
No surprise here, Gabby Parker for Washington. Strickland.
Van Zandt has 20 kills today. And it did. Parker again from the line. Nelson. Ball just won't go over the net. Tipped by Johnson, but it's long.
It was a good idea. It was a great idea. Not quite executed the way that they needed.
This ball never goes over the net until then, and at Joniku, she made the right decision. Just a little too much. 5-2 Huskies. Some folks might think they're in the dark when they look up on the scoreboard, see Washington is winning this match, but Washington is only hitting 209. Stanford's hitting better than 300, almost 100 points better. So how is Washington winning, Tammy?
Take a look right below in the stats. Service aces 10. This is a Washington team that is vested and spent a lot of time in serving, and they believe that serving was where it was going to all matter this year. I mean, they're student athletes. They talk about it in the school paper when they're being interviewed after matches.
Burgess, paintbrush, too long. Got it with the fingertips. You could hear it. There was no thud. Just swatted at it. 6-2 Washington. Remember, the 5th set is only to 15. Burgess wanted it right back. Orlandini read her. Parker across court. Gilbert's there. Confusion in the back row. Parker again. How about the dig by Howard? Burgess. Van Zandt caught a break. 7-2, Huskies.
The substitution by McLaughlin to get Parker in for her size blocking at the net, and for also, she's got a fresh arm, and her arm swing has been quite nice. They've been using Strickland quite a bit. You get Gabby Parker in there, she's been great on that left side.
Husky fans didn't have much to cheer about at the start. Stanford won the first set 25-14. Washington had nothing going on, but they flipped the script. Won the second set 25-21, and the third set. Stanford had to scramble back to force a fifth. It's not just ranked in the top 10. This is also for first place in the conference. USC was #1 in the country. About 5 hours ago, USC got upended by Arizona in 3 straight. So now whoever wins this match shares first place with USC.
It's huge. There's always a lot on the line in the Pac-12. And when you talk to coaches day in and day out, I'll say this again, they always say, expect anything, and that's why we play. And some people talk about the star matches or the elite matchups like today. But let's look at Arizona USC today, Jim. There are those, even with the team that is not ranked like Arizona.
Next week, the Arizonas will be at Colorado and Utah. And so it's a great time for Arizona to get hot, right in the middle of the conference season. The chant and report, the echo through Alaska Airlines Arena. Go Huskies, go Huskies. And Washington is on a 4-0 run. 7 serving 2 in the 5th. Burgess looked like she took a little something off that one. Parker. Joniku, and the set was into the block. 8-2 Washington.
That's why that substitution was key, to get Gabby Parker in for her size and her ability at the net. And when Parker and number 5, Wade, close out in the middle like that, that's a huge point. There's never been a more important time, Jim, than for Washington to execute one of the 2 keys that we brought you in set number 1, composure and focus.
Jim McLaughlin and Washington haven't beat Stanford since 2011. They've split the last 4 in Seattle. Van Zandt now has a double-double. She has a 20-20. Williams took something off of it, and it worked. She waited for the block to fade. It's a start for Stanford. Substitutions for Washington.
Strickland back in, great back row player. Key substitution there.
3 serving 8. Nelson is blocked. Strickland. Burgess. Off the hands of Orlandini. They're going to keep it alive. It's a free ball here for Stanford. Where do you go? Inky in the middle. And Burgess tools the block. 4 serving 8. Stanford has been to 32 straight NCAA tournaments. They're not going home early. They're not going to lay down in the 5th. Washington lucky that the rally continues. That's in. It's 5 serving 8.
This is what you worry about if you're Jim McLaughlin. This is how good Stanford is. They can come right back. Down 5, now they're down only 3.
Washington has played 5 sets once this year. They beat Gonzaga. Stanford has never gone to 5. Even in its 3 losses, Stanford did not play a 5th set. They have never played this much volleyball in one day this year. But somehow, Stanford has re-energized here midway through the final frame. Last 4 years in Seattle, the last 2 have gone 5, and they've just rotated the winner's circle. Stanford winning last year. And Stanford did not hit well last year. Stanford's hitting percentage now is under 300. Washington's is just over 200.
If you believe in patterns, you'd say, well, it's time for Washington, to come in, but scratch patterns. because there are no patterns when it comes to this particular matchup.
Well, whenever you see stats like that and then you talk to the players afterwards, they're never aware of them. They always say, oh, is that right? Did that really happen? That's not the kind of thing they talk about when they come together. John Dunning, a Hall of Famer. Both of these coaches, both of these programs, every year at the top of the heap in women's college volleyball. You can just bank on it. There's no off years for these two programs. In fact, if either one of these teams ever falls out of the top 10, it's like a rebuilding year.
That's a good point.
And it doesn't take long. Five serving 8. Stanford has won the last 2 points. Last 3. Strickland, that's out. Stanford's won 4 points in a row. 6 serving 8. Crowd getting nervous. So was the bench. Strickland has paid off repeatedly for Washington. And she always punctuates every kill with a bunny hop.
Now on the way to serve.
Jonica right into the block. Kaylee Nelson says that was me, and that felt good.
And I'm watching a Husky team that's got some hitters up top, but Van Sant is not one of them. Again, a substitution. Parker for Strickland. Van Sant in the back. Why? Very good passer, that type of rotation player. This could be where she shines. Big pass.
And Wade threw it up out in front of her. That ball never had a chance. Stanford has out-blocked Washington. They have out-hit Washington. But Washington, as they do to everybody, has out-served them, and today has out-passed Stanford. Dini pumps it behind her. Strickland never went across. It hit the tape, never went across. Point Stanford. We are in the 5th set. Stanford is number 7. Washington is number 6. Huskies leading 10-8, but Stanford is on a run. Jim McLaughlin, head coach at Washington last 13 years, has won a national championship in 2005. 10 consecutive NCAAs. At the other end for Stanford, it's John Dunning. This is what happened on the last point. Does it go across?
Just hits the tape. And you have to ask yourself, at 5'8", is that the type of thing that's more realistic to happen to a player that's 5'8" like Strickland? Because she does give up some inches, and I'm going to answer that and say no, because she's been so consistent. Listen, she's tired. It's the 5th set. They're playing Stanford. She's taken a lot of swings. It has nothing to do with her height.
I've been playing for 2 hours. I'm tired, and I've been sitting in a chair. Inside Alaska Airlines Arena in Seattle on the Pac-12 networks, Jim Watson, Tammy Blackburn, and 2 of the best teams in the college game. Washington is number 6. Stanford is number 7. Arizona beat USC earlier today. It was the number 1 team in the country. So whoever wins here gets a share of first place. Stanford is going to go home and play number 21 Oregon, and then Oregon State Wednesday, Friday. And for Washington, they're going all the way down to Southern California to play UCLA and USC. And you figure the women of Troy are pretty sour right now after getting swept by Arizona. There's no nights off in this conference.
No.
You know, earlier this year I'm talking to Jason Watson, the Arizona State coach, Dave Rubio, the U of A coach. They've been around a long time. They said this is the best the Pac-12 has ever been. And this game, this match, a reflection of that. 10-8 in the 5th, 2-2 in the match. Nelson. Williams serving 10.
We call the touch. Point Stanford Cardinal. Again, this is what you expect of these two teams in set 5.
Stanford has gone on a 6-2 run to get back into it. They were starting to celebrate on Montlake. Winner, Liana Seibeldon. Washington needs 4. Standing at the service line, Katie Beals.
Munoz in for Huskies. Big blocker, big outside hitter.
Not an easy set, it bump set running away from the net. Pancake by Maddie Bug. Crowd thought it was over. Now they get the bad news. Play until the whistle. Now the Huskies didn't quit. The crowd just thought it was over. They didn't think Maddie Bug was going to get there.
And it was a big hit. I mean, that ball had some top spin. It was heavy.
I love watching Maddie Bug play volleyball. She is a kick. Miss hit. Oh, touch at the net.
They get the
touch at the net.
Fingers. Yep.
And Stanford can't believe it. They're looking at each other. John Dunning is up. He doesn't believe it. Is there a touch? Sure, micro touch at the net. Good call. And then a service error. Strickland went for it. Up 2. Feeling it.
You have to go for it, right? There's no doubt on that call.
11 serving 12. Maddie Bug has been pulling Stanford out of the fire all day. Misses from the service line. Washington needs 2 points. We played a 15, win by 2. Well, here's the biggest point of the match right now for Stanford. Bug goes to Williams. Kept alive. Bug goes to Williams. 12 serving 13. Look at the sweat down the back of Rachel Williams. Think she's earning her meal money? At the service line is Brittany Howard. Last time she was there, left it in the net. Better effort this time. Van Zandt, dug by Gilbert, but it carries out. It is set and match point for Washington.
This is what Van Zandt does. Not surprised that they draw up her number. A very good decision to set her. She was in position. Nogueras in to serve. Out goes Beals.
Stanford's got to win the point. Williams, and it's dug. Van Zandt for the match!
You think, Jim, this team knows who their go-to player is? Beals set her for the 14th point in the 5th set. Nogueras checks in, goes back to serve. Stanford back over the net. Nogueras gets a chance to set. Who do they go to? Van Zandt again, and she terminates. Match point, and the Huskies win.
Washington is 7-0 at home. They're 15-1 on the season. They're 7-1 in the conference, and they're in first place. But now they got to go to LA and play UCLA and formerly #1 USC. Lorenzo Romar says, I hope our games are that good. Washington wins it in 5. That's going to do it for Tim McQuillan, your producer, Ross Miller, your director, our coordinating producer back in San Francisco, Will O'Toole, and of course from my partner, Tammy Blackburn. I'm Jim Watson, saying so long from the Emerald City, where Washington beats Stanford in 5.